Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. Please call the roll.
McKay, Wertz,
Here.
Johnson, here, Rust,
Here.
Trent, here, Griffin, here, Ware, here, Campbell.
Here. To the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now it's time for public comment. Do we have anybody wishing to address the board? The format of the board is that everyone's given 3 minutes to address the board. Thank you.
I'm not going to take that long. I just want to say hi, welcome to Edwardsville, and we're really excited that Santa is going to be on our campus starting November 30th. So he arrives, you can tell that the city's already decorated the exterior. Tomorrow night, the Friends of the Nickel Plate, which I'm one of those, will decorate the interior so that Santa will have a festive backdrop. But if you have any little ones, anybody in your families, watch the times. That'll be on the city website. And thank you for letting Santa be here, because it's a very interactive display from the Children's Museum. So there's a lot going on, and it's a really great way to feature Nelson campus. So thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you.
So we have a P20 update with Superintendent Dr. Todd Dugan and his board president, John, and then Dr. Trask.
We'll present it this way. We'll present it to all of you. Okay. So, Todd Dugan is the superintendent over at Buckerville, and a really dear friend of mine in sort of the network of education. And John and I had the pleasure of meeting, I don't know, a month or so ago. We took a trip to Texas, and Abilene, Texas. If you've ever been to Abilene, it's sort of far, but they're doing some really cool things. And so, this is really a presentation of that trip, but really it inspires some work between Bunker Hill and Lewis Clark as it relates to creating pathways for students in high school to be able to be exposed to career opportunities earlier on in their high school careers. So we've decided that we want to pilot something. So we want to talk a little bit about the experience we had. Each of us will sort of talk a couple of minutes, not very long, and then really talk a little bit about next steps and what we want to do over this next year. So I'll pass it on to Todd to kind of kick it off and talk a little bit about kind of the experience we had. That's a picture of us at the conference presenting sort of the infancy stages of our plan. Sorry, the slides are sort of like, you can see them through the reflection.
So the group known as Collegiate Education is based out of West Texas, and one of the things that they've made it their mission to do is to basically bring academic outcomes and success to all rural areas. And they've had a really good, successful tenure in West Texas. And I'm going to let President Burr speak a little bit about what he knows about the town and the school district itself. But they have recently come into some investors that want to bring this into other states. They have a very successful West Texas network, and so they are looking at scaling this into other states, 8 other states to be exact. And so Illinois was chosen due to some of the connections that we've had with Collegiate Education, and Lewis and Clark is obviously our well-established partner that we enjoy working with very much so. So this grant that actually funded the trip down there and the conference was from the Carnegie Foundation, and we went down to, I would say, late September to Abilene, Texas.
Yeah, late September. Yep. It all blurs together.
There's people on Zoom if you want to get closer to the mic.
Oh yeah, there's people. Hi, people on Zoom here, so you can speak into it. So we can speak into
Talk about what you saw at the schools.
Just what I saw? Well, I would say it was about an hour drive from Abilene, Texas to, what was the name? Roscoe, Texas. Certainly encourage everybody to Google and look up Roscoe, Texas, small town. The sign at the edge of town said 1,200 people, so a little bit smaller than our town at Bunker Hill, like 1,600 people. I don't think the sign has changed for many years in our town, but you know, the town looked like it was kind of dying. You can see some dilapidated buildings there, and it seemed to me like the superintendent, you know, saw a need, saw an opportunity, and really took the opportunity to make some changes there. He was really the champion, kind of the original, really, behind that. And then this group he started, CEN, Collegiate Education, they really, you know, collected several similar types of champion-type people from around Texas, and now they have this group where they're working for more than just, you know, on more rural towns than just that Roscoe, Texas. So, you know, we at Bunker Hill have been doing a lot of these types of things under the leadership of our superintendent, who would be our champion. And you know, it just seems like if we can find partners to work with, that we can, you know, we can expand that relationship and expand some other successes. So, Todd.
One of the things that they were quick to point out to us on the trip was that when you look at the big picture of K-12 education, third grade was the expectation for 1900. And then they quickly realized they were not meeting the needs of a changing society, so they bumped it up to sixth grade. 15 years later, they raised it to eighth grade, then 11th grade, and then 1 year later, 12th grade. But ironically, K-12 has been the model since 1947. And I think that's evidence. I mean, we all know 1947, what schools were preparing for was industrialized workforce, and hence we still have the bell schedule, the cafeterias. We still very much have that model. So in the past, I like to think of it like this. Through no fault of anybody else's, the end of the K-12 road appears like a four-way stop where somebody could maybe turn this way and, you know, seek employment, enter the workforce. They could go this way, enlist in the military, or they could continue going straight to continue education. The world has changed immensely since then, and this is where, so I will, full disclosure, I had fun with AI, trying, maybe too much fun because I asked them to make a very confusing intersection. It's also in Russian too, but.
Yeah, which we're like, this isn't, yeah, so, you know, if you're listening, you know. So essentially now there are so many options for students, so many pathways that students can take, and part of this P20 structure, you know, as John was saying in Roscoe, is they identified a handful of industries in the region in which those students have the opportunity to sort of engage with those industries, learn about the industry, while parallel, they are obviously earning the education at the high school. By the time they finish that, in partnership with a local college, they have a better sense of perhaps the industry or the pathway that they want to take. I think what's happening now is there's so much, there's so many options out there for students that there isn't clarity on the pathway. So we sort of look back, you know, to the origins. You have these sort of 2 or 3 ways you can go. Students now are realizing that, you know, the road ahead, you know, really is a little bit messy. So what we want to try to do is create continued structure and look at a couple of programs through Lewis and Clark that we can truly align with Bunker Hill. And maybe, you know, and this is the flexibility. Maybe you start in 10th grade, maybe you start in 11th grade, you know, maybe you start in 9th grade, and you start to expose those students perhaps to careers in Wheeland, perhaps careers at P66, or other partners in our area that are willing to say, we're willing to have a cohort of students on our campus, being Wheeling campus, for, you know, 2 days a week to learn about these career paths. And then we loop that back into Lewis and Clark, and this links into things like dual credit or concurrent enrollment, where those students can then earn credit and then have perhaps a pathway for an apprenticeship or a cooperative work experience. So, yeah, we had sort of fun with this, saying, you know, in the past you had a couple of options. Now students sort of have this vast environment in front of them, and so it's our responsibility, I think, as educators to find partnership opportunities with workforce, but also look at some of the unique opportunities, particularly in rural communities, and that was really the focus of this. I mean, one of the barriers we all know at Lewis and Clark that we face is being able to serve our rural communities in the same way that we can serve some of those communities closest to the college, and so it was pretty powerful to see some of the things that were happening. So.
And the work ties in nicely with the mission of Bunker Hill. I mean, we are small and rural, so this partnership, we have vision, we have a mission, we know what our outcomes are. We want 100% of our kids to be employed, enrolled, or enlisted. We're also the first district, at least in this area, that has the Power of 15 pilot, which we actually pay our students that qualify for up to 15 credit hours from Lewis and Clark. That's all based on the research that says every kid with 15 hours, if they can leave high school with 15 credit hours, they're 80% more likely to succeed either in the workplace or college, whatever they prefer. So this is kind of what we're doing, and one of the overlapping visions, I guess, to say for the long run would be if we could expand this partnership with Lewis and Clark to grabbing kids like maybe sophomore year, even earlier. We would envision potentially a grade 13 at Bunker Hill High School. Off grounds, possibly. We've got a ways to go on the details on that. So I think that's why we're here tonight to talk about next steps.
So what we really want to be able to do is obviously put together a team with Bunker Hill, a small team of us that would include some faculty, obviously some of our academic leadership. And I'm going to show this slide, which I have to give, I think the next slide is the one I have to credit to Tom for. We just bummed this slide. Tom showed this to me in his office. This is just an example of some pathways that we've created at Lewis and Clark, kind of parallel some of this really amazing work that Todd is doing, and this Power of 15 is really related to concurrent enrollment. So these students actually get to enroll at Lewis and Clark and participate in courses at Lewis and Clark, which we even find in our data, those students are there's a higher likelihood of those students at the rate of about 50 to 60% of actually finishing at Lewis and Clark. And so thinking about some of the pathways that we're creating around, for example, avionics, this is something that we're doing with another high school right now, but perhaps there are 9 students at Bunker Hill that are really interested in avionics. We can, with our partnership with Gulfstream, for example, or Westar, those students will have exposure to those industries at a younger age, therefore being better prepared for a choice, so they don't go back to this slide saying, what is it that I'm supposed to do? There are so many things out there. It's fascinating, and we're really, really excited actually to be able to already have some momentum with Bunker Hill, and now being able to see some of the sort of short-term credentialing that we're doing to where a student could technically graduate high school with a credential in avionics or a credential in another industry that will allow them to get employment. So with that being said, I think next steps we sort of alluded to, but it's really putting together the team, and then our goal is to pilot something very formally in the fall of 26. So the reason for that is we want to start at the beginning of an academic year. So we're going to flush out in the spring all the details, and then launch this in the fall, and then be able to track those students, because the good news on this, and I'll let my colleague here jump in a second again, is that we're hoping that there will be additional funding to help support these pathways as well, which is really powerful. The Carnegie Foundation has been very, very supportive. So Todd, back to you, and then we'll wrap it up and thank everyone. So.
Well, thank you for humoring me tonight, and Mr. Burris and everybody. But the next step, really, there are immense funding opportunities right now for rural achievement from the Walton Family Foundation. I've been in contact with a woman from Texas, Rachel McClellan. And they want to expand this work with rural. So why is Bunker Hill doing this? Well, if we could get like a bridge, like you see that analogy of the four-way stop, or you even see the crazy intersection. What we're looking at is a bridge for kids leaving Bunker Hill High School as they enter the workforce, or to Lewis and Clark. A grade 13, if you will. And why are we doing grade 13? We're not going to get any more funding for the state. It's not going to raise your test scores on the school report card. We're doing this because we want every kid from Bunker Hill to have this unfair advantage of a guaranteed success for life. We were hoping to find the funding that would fund the pilot, which would be a full-time position, would be a grade 13 supervisor, and we would have 50 graduates from Bunker Hill each year, and they would be under the charge of this person. We would call it like a college post-secondary, or a post-secondary coach or something, and they would be checking their grades through college, or even calling it and making sure once a week that they are still employed. If they're not employed, what happened? Do you need help with your resume? So we can see this going, basically creating a support network that would wrap around the other services, such as Lewis and Clark Student Success Center. Anyway, we feel like it's a nice blend, kind of a hybrid, if you will, of this overlapping area between 12th and college. So it'd be pretty much the end of the K-12 model as we know it, and then hopefully it works out so successfully, and we can track that and show it with data that can be replicated other places in Illinois. And we'd be privileged to get the blessing to just proceed further.
And I think, and maybe a closing comment, is that the great thing with Todd and Bunker Hill, and even though, you know, one could say Bunker Hill is a small community, a small high school, small K through 12 sort of system, there's some amazing innovation going on. And, you know, I like to think that we're the disruptors in this region, that we're really trying to look differently at what education is and what it could be going forward. And, you know, we're doing some remarkable work at Lewis and Clark, and it's only fitting that we partner with a Bunker Hill who's also doing some amazing things. And I think that would be vice versa, you know. So we want to thank you all really for just entertaining us here for a moment and appreciate the support. And that's all I've got. Thank you, John, as well. And safe travels later this week, guys. Thank you.
Is this where I dispute my tax levy,
Yep.
or is that during public comments?
No disputing. Thanks, guys. You guys are welcome to hang out or take off.
Thank you very much.
And I'll be at Bunker Hill's meeting tomorrow, and Bunker Hill presenting the same thing. So looking forward to that.
Thank you. You guys did a great job. We have a budget. Does the board have any questions about each one? No.
Yeah.
Donald asked me. I should ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
Other questions?
Todd can take any questions.
My question was just how many students are in Bunker Hill High School right now?
About 50 per grade, so 200.
Okay, thank you.
You said 50 students in this grade 13, right, Todd?
There potentially could be,
That was your estimate.
basically, having somebody hover over, checking their grades, as well as support, until you need to step out.
It's like a transition year almost.
Yep.
You said that the school district, Bunker Hill School District, is paying for that. There are, what, 15 credits at Lewis and Clark? I mean, I know the budgets are really tight at public school systems. Where's that money coming from? Is it coming from that foundation?
No, that's a great question. So every year, every district probably gets based funding to meet student outcomes. We have tremendous software. So we have digital textbooks that cost 3 times that amount. I think it was estimated, as this is the pilot year, so it was estimated about $6,000 a year. We just paid the first semester, which was, I want to say, $1,700. That's not a bad investment. We're investing in kids' future, changing their trajectories. I'd say the return on investment of that is priceless. So if that funding dries up, I guarantee we'll be finding that funding in some other way. Like I said, we have software that costs 3 times that amount. I mean, that's just the nature of that tech. So.
Thank you.
Budget health update.
That will be me. I'm back. So, thank you again, Todd and John. So, a couple of things here that I want to point out. At the end of the first quarter of this fiscal year 25, actual tuition and fee revenues exceeded the first quarter of the fiscal year 24 by about $280,000. So that's again a testament to the good work done by our enrollment team and obviously everybody on campus. Although our state funding decreased significantly, our total actual revenue increased over $460,000 in fiscal year 25 first quarter compared to the fiscal year 24 first quarter. The largest part of this again was tuition and fees, as I previously noted. The remainder is tied primarily to our indirect costs and the timing of the tax receipts as they arrive. At the end of September, our projected expenses are $1.5 million less than budgeted. Although 3 months into the fiscal year, we are projecting a considerable savings in expenditures. Early estimates would be at a loss of over $600K for fiscal year 25. There's one thing I did want to sort of update on as well. So this will be related to the ICCB on an annual basis authorizes us for the eligibility for the special tax levy. And I think it's important that everyone understands sort of the impact of this, but also sort of why we're doing what we're doing. As Lewis and Clark's combined education and operations and maintenance purposes tax rate is below the state average, which is 28.79 cents. The college has been provided authorization, and this has happened essentially every year, an additional 3.79 cents, up to last year's authorization of 3.33 cents, which is up from last year. Given the removal of this special tax from the 22 levy and the challenges of reinstatement without triggering an extension exceeding 105% of the current year, this will not be part of our 24 levy proposal. At the 2023 EAD levels, this has an estimated value of about $2.147 million in eligible revenues that we essentially lose those revenues. Now, putting this in context, you know, what we've done is, I think, pretty remarkable across the campus. I mean, you know, as we heard last week in Chicago at our state meetings, you know, colleges were able to gain some additional revenues during COVID. I mean, COVID was a very difficult thing for education to work through. But now, as things are getting back to normal, as the ICCB director told us, it's a different kind of normal. And the level of support from the state is probably not going to be any better than flat next year. If anything, we're probably looking at a 2 to 4% decrease. Last year, I think the college, we were hit about $4 million. And some of that happened, you know, it was, I won't say it was shocking, but it was very stressful because, you know, we were expecting something and we received a lot less. I think as we think forward as an institution, I mean, we raised tuition and fees for the first time in 7 years by $7. And, you know, thinking about where education is going, we don't want to keep sort of handing off the expense to the students. You know, we want to keep tuition low, we want to remain competitive. And I think even in the spirit of the conversation we just had with Todd and John, I mean, you know, this is about being innovative and finding new ways in which we as institutions, whether we're K-12 or higher education, can attract students to something that is favorable and meaningful to them. So what that means is, well, what does that mean for revenue? I mean, is enrollment suddenly going to go up 800% and we're going to, you know, see all these additional dollars coming in and be able to do all these other things? I think what it means is we're going to see growth. You know, I think it's going to be calculated growth. I mean, I expect us to continue to grow at a pretty healthy rate, but with growth comes additional expenses and additional burdens. I mean, we know as an older campus, we have lots of things that happen. I think the board on occasion always gets, hey, there's another emergency, and those emergencies cost money, and that money has to come from somewhere. So I think in the context of this levy, I mean, we decided that we want to look at this on an annual basis. You know, that doesn't mean we're going to go one way or the other, but always making sure that whatever we do, it makes sense into making sure the institution is sustainable and that it's going to have an impact on the student experience. If there were ever a time when we thought, oh my gosh, we can't do this or we have to cut these services, you know, we have to have a serious conversation. If the revenue isn't there from, say, tuition or fees, what are some things that we can do? And because Lewis and Clark does levy below the state average, we tend to always qualify for this additional tax. So I think it's something that Mary and I have talked a lot about, and that we want to have a deeper conversation with the board at our June retreat, more of a philosophical discussion of saying, here's what these dollars mean. Fortunately, we've built our reserves, we've been nimble, we've continued to right-size the institution, and I think that is why we decided for the last couple of years to move away from that. But I guess I should say publicly, you know, is that sustainable? We hope so, but if it's not, you know, that's where the conversation has to be folded back into the more strategic direction of the institution. I mean, it's one of those tough ones. I mean, talking to colleagues across the state, they're like, well, of course we're going to take it because we get it. Well, we decided that, you know, if we don't need it right now because we've seen other things happening in a positive way, let's put those dollars back into the state, which, you know, probably could use the dollars to support other communities and other institutions that perhaps need the money. So more of a philosophical statement, but I think it's important because we're not going for those dollars again this year, that we do sort of lose out on that revenue, but at the same time, we feel confident in the direction that we're going because we have been able to do some really hard work at the institution to be financially secure. And that was reflected recently in our Standard & Poor's rating going to an A+. I mean, that's a testament to the work of Mary and Cindy and her team, and of course everybody on campus who is mindful in how we are leveraging and using our dollars for the better. So that would conclude my, actually a little bit longer than I wanted, update on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. T. An enrollment update?
Dr. Jackson.
All right, just really quickly, an enrollment update for spring 2025. So we continue to enroll students. Our enrolled student count, we were up 1.13% from last year. This current year, we have 1,319 students enrolled for the spring 2025 term. For full-time enrolled credits, which is really what brings in the revenue, we're up 5.19%. So we are seeing an increase, a small increase in the total number of students, but of course the credit hours continues to increase, so more students are taking more credit hours. So excited about that. We continue to do community events as well. We recruit and have someone representing L&C everywhere we can go. So yesterday, Heather, Amber, and Daniel and I were at the Jerseyville Community Career Fair. So from time to time we get invited, and we try to always make sure that we go to all the communities and the schools to make sure that they are aware of L&C and the resources that we have available for them. And then I also wanted to congratulate Brandy Cribb. She's one of our success tutors. She actually received a level 2 leadership certification from Ball State University. So excited for her to bring some of those concepts and leadership skills into L&C. And we're just excited that we're able to help people continue to develop and then hopefully bring that leadership into Lewis and Clark. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Program update on digital streaming and broadcast and media, and that's going to be with Mike Lemons. Is that right? Or Dr. Sue? Mike.
I'm just going to introduce you.
Oh,
But you just did a great job, so I can just go say. I do want to introduce Mike Lemons. He's the coordinator of his new program, revised program. You know, let me get this right, digital streaming and broadcast media. I had to practice. And Mike took advantage of Dr. Traska's brainchild of 10, so the teaching and engagement model. So Mike took that upon himself to really revise his program, move his program across campus, and it's made a world of difference. So I'd like to introduce Mike and then tell you the story.
Hello again. Complete restructuring of the program. We had for years, a long, successful radio broadcasting program to where we had a very popular radio station with a huge listenership. Prior to COVID, we started losing some of those listeners to streaming services, and Spotify, YouTube, and we knew that, but we still offered listeners something special with concerts and remote broadcasts. Well, when COVID hit, none of that happened. So listenership took a tank, our enrollment took a tank. So we started, even before that, making changes to the program to really encompass what media is. Radio no longer is just radio. If you look at a radio station's website and television station's website, they look very similar. They all have copy, they all have audio, they all have video. So we were doing a lot of those things, but rebranding the program to really encompass everything we were doing. Digital streaming and broadcast media could do that. So it's really content creation and distribution across all forms of media, not just radio, but television, online, whatever. In addition to this, we created 4 new certificates. Before, if you wanted to do audio editing or video editing, you had to be in our program to do that. Now you can take a 2-course certificate in audio editing, 2-course certificate in video editing, 2-course certificate in podcasting, or 5-course certificate in video broadcasting, which includes some graphic design courses. The thinking there is that those could be stackable credentials for our students, but someone who's going into welding could have these skills and take that skills to those workplaces, because we're all going to be creating content at some point if we're not already. So These people then could potentially just have a leg up on their other people trying to get those jobs because they have these skills. There was a studio relocation. We were kind of on an island over there in Caldwell after everyone got moved out. And in order for these changes to take place, we needed to be visible with the student body. And since we were going to have to move anyway because of the impending renovation, we wanted to get ahead of that. It was an opportunity to build from the ground up for all the changes we were making to the program. A lot of our connectivity is all digital. Everything is run into one particular room. We can switch studios anywhere. We have video and audio. So it was a way to do that. We were in the first floor of science, as you know. You toured the place before. It's a little different now than when we were there last, so I'd like you to come by again. We wanted a big window looking in, but that became too cost prohibitive. So now what we do is we stream video from the room out to the main display case, the science below and the TV there. The benefit there is that when we're not live in the studio, we can run pre-recorded things or promotional announcements, and that's worked out really well. Another part of the TIM was there seemed to be a hole in marketing audio and video on campus. We had for a couple of years had a video editor on campus, so why not let us use our expertise to help create some of the content for the college? Plus, it was a way that if our enrollment didn't respond, that at least this was still a place for the college to use going forward. So we did the Mike Keith marketing campaign, which you guys all know about, and that was Mike Keith building on his success and showing you could become any program in Lewis and Clark. As you know, that won a medal, our award we were proud of. We just talked to him about Mike Keith 2.0, where he still kind of narrates the commercial, but it's introduces successful grads from the programs and maybe community leaders that went to Lewis and Clark. Those people may not be as good at speaking as he is, so he still kind of runs it, but we'll focus on other people. Several podcasts that we're producing, Dr. T's podcast, A&Z Across the Sea podcast. Students are trying, a couple students are here producing a bunch of podcasts on their own. Us older guys can create content all day, but once the students start doing it, the students start paying attention to it. So we're excited that our new group is large and pretty engaged. There was an opportunity to restructure a current position. We had a retiring station engineer. So let's rethink that position. That person might be a video editor. That person might be an adjunct instructor. And we did that with a little to no money to hire a person that could do all those things. You met David Little, who was the architect, the editor of the campaign. So what are the results? Well, this is the first semester, fall semester, the first semester where all these things really take place. And we kind of judge things on the first year enrollment because it's kind of sequential. And our first year enrollment for fall of 2024 is 67% for fall of 2023. I can tell you, I've been excited about it for a while. I took a field trip today at Odyssey Broadcasting and Hub Broadcasting. They were pretty engaged. They seemed to like the trip. They're engaged, collaborative, accountable, which I haven't had for a while. Creative, seeing students full of students was pretty exciting. I anticipate our first enrollment next year. I think we'll get past the group of space that we're in, and hopefully down the road we're looking at adding sections to the program. So even some course takers that are just taking the course to find out have converted now to taking the program. And I said everything starts in the fall, but the number of new students in the spring. Oh, by the way, I haven't enrolled my students yet. Sheree will do that, so that number should go up. But we have students in those courses that I don't know yet, and that doesn't happen in a year, so that's exciting too. Anyway, thanks to Dr. T for allowing the vision to happen, and Sue, Randy, and thank all of you all for your support of 10, and hopefully we can keep moving forward.
How many students do you have in the program? Maybe you said that.
The total number of programs is just a little over 20 at that point. Once again, our second year, our first year class last year was 9, so we're up quite a bit from that. So I think we'll hold on to more of those students, and once again, as we fill up again next year, so of course, these certificates too are kind of structured to be CDE type of things. So I think we're going to have a number of options there. So now, how do we offer new sections without cannibalizing our current sections? So it's finding that balance as we go forward. But in our heyday, when the radio station was big and going gangbusters, we had over 40 students, and I anticipate we'll get back to that stage again. So anyway, thank you.
Can we also meet the students?
No, go ahead, you can talk, go ahead, what were you? You want to introduce your students? No, it's okay, there's a lot of people.
This is Jamie Grant. I just promise they may ask questions they may not. Ask everyone to come, just the ones that like me. This is Jamie Grant.
What are your career aspirations? You guys know yet?
Hello, my name is Brianna. I actually plan on going to massage therapy.
Hi, my name is Jake. I don't know what I want to do exactly, but I know I want to do something in entertainment or, media or something like that. I've been doing theater and stand-up comedy for a while now, and, I'm hoping to kind of hone my skills with the program at Lewis & Clark. I'm in 2 gen eds, so English and speech. And in the program, I'm in the broadcasting, intro to broadcasting, intro to announcing, which is like the radio aspect and the speaking and stuff like that. And I'm also in the video production class too, so yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Ryan? No. On the bus agenda.
The omnibus agenda is presented for a vote. Is there any item the board would like to be held out or separately? If not, I take a motion to approve the omnibus agenda, please.
Motion.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ware?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rust?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under action items, the protection, health, and safety projects to be funded by a protection, health, and safety levy, beginning with the 2024 levy year.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Oh, I have a discussion.
Oh, all right.
I'm going to vote no on this. Although I commend the leadership of Lewis & Clark for becoming more efficient and cutting costs, resulting in surpluses over the last few years. And we continue to pay off our high level of debt. When I was elected to this board, those are 2 things that I wanted to do. And the third thing was to cut taxes, cut the tax rate. Although we're below the state average, I feel the state average is too high. Our enrollment has declined greatly over the last 10 years. I wish I could remember the number, but I don't have it in my head. I just think our tax rates have not gone down enough as to compare to the number of people we serve and in our enrollment, the number of students. So I think we need to live within our means. We need to use the surpluses and the gains we've made by cutting costs and use that instead of levying another tax as a taxpayer.
Any other discussions? Please call the roll.
Wait, let me, I made the motion because my understanding is that this nickel is the same nickel that's been assessed or levied since 2012, I believe, right? So this has nothing to do with the 3.7 cents that we could have levied.
No, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Please call the roll.
Rust?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Ware?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Johnson?
No.
The asset capitalization and inventory equipment increases effective July 1st, 2024, FY 2025.
discussion? Please call the roll.
Johnson?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Ware?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Rest?
Yes.
Under information items, Dr. T, do you have anything you'd like to highlight?
I don't. I know there's quite a few, and you typically, Dr. Harris will do the recognition report. There are over 50 names on there, and I think just take a look at those when you can, if you haven't already, but just another testament of the great work happening on campus, and the recognition of the team by the team is pretty impressive. So, but no, I think everything in here hopefully is pretty self-explanatory, but certainly happy to answer any questions.
Leadership team reports.
And me again. Okay, so before I get into the report, I did want to, we decided to do this. It was, you know, our service awards were, I think, a week or so ago, and we started the Debbie Level Commitment to Service Award, and our recipient wasn't there, so I've been asked to read a little bit about the award and, of course, the make the announcement of the winner. So the Debbie Level, as you all know, was a longtime team member and mainstay of the college's HR department, dedicated nearly 5 decades of her life to the college before passing away unexpectedly in August of 2023. Anyone who knew Debbie knows that she was a heart and soul of the Human Resources Department. Her impact on the institution and the countless lives she touched is immeasurable. Debbie's dedication to college began in 1974, a mere 4 years after the inception of Lewis and Clark. Her 49 years of service spanned almost the entirety of the institution's existence, making her a profound witness to a huge part of the college's growth and evolution. Debbie's work in the HR department found her welcoming and onboarding new hires by assisting and counseling team members and through their own personal issues, as well as working with countless individuals as she assisted them in transitioning into retirement. Debbie had an amazing, compassionate approach to the work she did for all team members, and she gave so much to the ultimate gift of retirement, which was evidenced by the numerous retirees who showed up to pay their respects to Debbie and her legacy during her visitation and funeral services. The college's first distributed this award in 2023, making Jane Fleming the second recipient of this award this year. So we want to congratulate the recipient this year, and again also appreciate Debbie Level's commitment to the college, and we feel it's fitting that this award go to somebody who really reflects that same sort of dedication. Beyond that, a couple of other things just to update the board on. Our AI mover team met today, and I want to thank Ron Hall and his leadership, as well as a couple of others, Ryan Downey and Chris McLaughlin, recently attended an AI conference in Texas last week and brought back a lot of really good information. The goal is for that mover team was to develop, and I think there's, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, 15, 20 team members that are on that group that meet pretty regularly, and we've developed a policy that we want to bring forward to the board, kind of a general AI policy, and then in the spring, our goal is to continue that work and create a sort of a clearinghouse of resources and best practices for our campus team and students as it relates to AI, and the utilization that AI will continue to play in the work that we do. And then it's likely going to be an extension of the State of Trailblazer in May that will do a short AI summit, kind of talking about the work that happened during the year and sharing some of the outcomes and, of course, the future goals that we have in working with AI. Next month, we'll bring the ERI to the board in December. Also, last week, we had a mid-year check-in for our strategic plan, so all the KDs kind of presented 20 minutes on the progress that's been made so far around the goals that we had the board approved last June. And we plan to do an abbreviated version of those presentations in January to let the board know kind of how we're progressing and some of the vulnerabilities we're facing as it relates to the enrollment and retention piece, the new program development, the culture work, and then of course the data and technology work. But overall, we are making tremendous progress, I think, as you've heard from team members today on the enrollment side, with the great work happening with avionics and aviation, which is really being led by these three individuals here, and Randy, Tom, and Dr. Sue. So just some really good stuff happening, and we look forward to sharing more of those successes in January. I mentioned this in my earlier statement on budget, but when it comes down to the dollars, the tricky part of all of this is, what's happening at the state level, and how do we continue to advocate for the good work that's happening at Lewis and Clark, and quite frankly, across education. But we know really fairly certainly that, the numbers from the state are not going to get any better. We're not going to get additional funding. We're suddenly not going to see some sort of fall of cash, and we're going to be able to do the 27 things that we really want to do. We just can't because we don't have the resources. So, we're hoping that we at least have flat funding next year, and that we continue to see some of the good work happening on the enrollment side. But we're trying to plan for that. And so a big part of that strategy is the ERI, and what we're going to be able to do there, I think, is going to help the institution continue to move forward in some creative ways. The other big one that I have to make a point about is dual credit, and this is a tricky one. Dual credit is a really amazing thing, and there's a group of us on the community college side that are really being folded into the conversation of what happens next with dual credit legislation, and how that looks differently for a community college in the Chicago suburbs versus how it looks for a community college in rural Illinois. It's very different. So we're trying to find a way in which it's beneficial for both, because right now the apportionment that we get from the state pales in comparison to what we would receive from general tuition. And a great example is what we're doing with Bunker Hill, where they are essentially, that is a concurrent enrollment model with Bunker Hill. So those students are actually on our campus versus students being in a class at the high school earning college credit. It's a really tricky thing, and I know my colleague and boss at the end of the table, I mean, it's sort of, there's two sides to this. So what we're trying to do is find that happy medium to where dual credit is valuable for everybody and doesn't benefit one type of institution versus another, understanding that the ultimate goal is to serve, I'm so sorry, that's my brother-in-law, just like he never calls, but he's calling today, so I hope everything's okay. But anyhow, and then of course, finally, healthcare. So we'll have our healthcare update to the board in December, and had a great meeting today with Kyle Kniepman, who's our broker, and a survey just went out to our team to get feedback from them, and then we'll bring all that feedback together, and that will help inform some of the modeling that we want to share with the board in December. The goal is always to, just like we do with students, to try to make healthcare more accessible for our team members, make it more affordable without breaking the bank at the institution. So I'll just end with thank you again for the support today. I understand everyone's perspective, and just appreciate the thoughtfulness that each of you put into making sometimes these very difficult decisions. And of course, thank the team for showing up every day and doing the work that sometimes is very, very difficult and complex, but you still show up, so thank you.
So we are going to adjourn open session only to enter closed session. There's going to be no action taken during the closed session.
Do you have a motion to adjourn the closed session? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Trent?
Yes.
Ware?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Wertz?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Rest?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.